Hi everyone, I'm Kertin from Canoeing and I'm a 17 this year, a J1 at Hua. So how my exercise routine looks like on a normal school day would be I would train 5 times a week on the normal school week, including morning runs on Tuesday and Thursday, together with school CCA trainings, which would include um, weight sessions, spelling sessions, or body weights training. I also do some swimming and cycling at my own leisure. Yeah.
What is your experience with sports injuries? For example, do you undergo any form of medical treatment, or why not? And if yes, what kind of medical treatment do you go through?
Well, unfortunately, I actually have had several skirmishes with sports injuries. So during the December holidays of my Sec 3 year, I was overseas and I think I fell down and I sprained my right wrist as I tried to break the fall. Initially, I didn't know that my wrist was injured and it actually just felt like strange and there was like some weakness when I tried to lift heavy objects. So a week later, when I returned to Singapore, I went to see TCM to try to remedy the problem. And also due to the wrist injury, I couldn't pedal for prolonged periods of time. And I was also advised not to do weights at all during that time to avoid escalating the wrist injury. So obviously I felt like very terrible about myself and seeing all of my teammates training so hard while I was just standing at the sideline, spectating and being helpless about it. So I turned to the next training aspect that I could work on, which was my aerobic fitness. So meaning I tried to increase my training volume and intensity much more. And I also couldn't cycle because I was afraid of deteriorating the situation of my wrist injury. So as foolish as I was, I made the unfortunate decision to run continuously for 30 days straight as a sort of like personal challenge, not only to improve my aerobic fitness, but also to prove to myself my own mental strength. But obviously the 30 days running challenge ended in tragedy and I ended up injuring both of my shins and was out of running for like 4 months or so. So regarding whether I undertook any medical treatment, so I did. So initially for both of my wrist and shin injury, as I mentioned, I went to see TCM or the Chinese doctor to try to remedy the issue. And I remember in the first session, the TCM, to my horror, she twisted my wrist back into position, which I guess like sort of helped. And I was also advised to completely rest. But then I felt like it was not sufficient because there was no follow-up to this wrist injury and the shin injury issue. So I also tried some very like unconventional medical treatment on my shins, like electrolysis or running electricity both through my lower legs. And I also tried icing up, which was to dip both of my lower legs into ice cold water. So obviously I was like really, really desperate to get back on track, like literally and figuratively. But these treatments actually didn't really work out. So eventually I went to see an accredited physiotherapist who taught me some simple exercises to strengthen my wrist and leg muscles. And he also advised me to rest completely for a period of time before gradually increasing my training load back to like the normal training load. Yeah.
So I would like to find out how did your coach, your canoeing coaches, your teachers, your friends and family react to both injuries, your wrist injury and the injury that came from the 30-day run program?
Upon hindsight and reflection, right, I felt that my social circle or my friends, they didn't actually react to my injuries positively. Like many of them wasn't very encouraging or supportive of my recovery journey. And some of them, since they also don't have prior experience with sports injuries, they couldn't empathize with what I was going through. And some were even very mocking or disparaging, which made me feel even worse. And actually this is actually quite terrible for me to be placed in that position. But I think on the other hand, my coding teachers were very patient and encouraging with me because they also came up with alternative training programs that I could do. And they didn't blame me for being so foolish to say go for the 30-day running challenge. And my family members, they were also very supportive with me because they provided like monetary support that I needed to receive like the physiotherapist treatment, which obviously is actually really expensive. And my my parents were also very patient with me because they advised me to take it slow. They offered some insights as to um, how I can recover better. Yeah.
So what was the biggest challenge with recovering from this sports injury that you had gone through?
I think as a secondary school athlete, I had very little experience with sports because I also didn't have a lot of sufficient sports experience. So as an inexperienced athlete, I was very anxious and desperate in wanting to returning to training and the normal training load. So what I did was try to like jump steps. I was also very undisciplined because I only obsessed over one thing, which was just training and training. And I didn't give proper consideration to another important aspect of training, which actually is rest and recovery. So I felt like this was the biggest challenge that served as an impediment to my recovery journey because this meant that I kept I didn't rest properly and I kept um just trying to overwork myself. So this eventually led to like the escalation of my shin injury, which took 4 months to recover from, although it is actually quite a minor injury, which would probably just take an average athlete 1 month to recover from. Yeah.
What is one advice you would give to all aspiring athletes?
I think one recurring theme that occurs to me upon reflection of my recovery journey is that progress is not linear, and the most important factor in improving your performance is not the intensity of training. It doesn't matter like how hard you train, but what matters most is rather like the consistency of your efforts. And what's more important is to avoid sports injury at all costs, because it will truly serve as an impediment. Not only will you be unable to improve, you will also deteriorate over time. So what we want to avoid is this injury thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.